And he always says, you've got to put the battery in. And meanwhile, the adversaries of Israel go, tell you what, let's make it illegal for them to keep the Sabbath day. They can have anything they want. We're just going to make it illegal to keep the Sabbath day and the festivals. They can believe whatever they want to believe. They can have all the parties they want, but we're going to make it illegal. And we'll actually kill them if they try to keep it. What they've effectively done ever since 300 or 321 AD was unplug Israel from having any functioning capacity of the covenant. Because Yahweh said, this doesn't work unless you do that. It's almost like just being plugged in. And it's kind of like, well, yeah, but so you have people that pray in the name, and they believe in the name, and they have a fervent heart, but Yahweh says, listen, I gave my word, and it won't work the same way it should. So I'm a carpenter, and so I tell people, hey, it's like this. I can give you a brand new sawzall, and you can say, hey, put your tool down, your regular handsaw, use this. And you go, what am I supposed to do with this? Oh, man, you can cut really great with this. And you go, oh, okay. Come back later, it's like, how'd you like it? It's like, well, I had to kind of, it's all beat up. And it's like, well, what were you doing? It's like, well, you said I could chop wood up with this. And it's like, didn't you put the blade in it? You go, on a blade? It's like, what? Oh, you're supposed to put a blade in it. You know, it's like, oh. And then you come back later and say, well, it worked a little better. And it's like, what do you mean a little better? You should have just been able to tear through the wood with this. And did you plug it in? It's like, plug it in? What? It's like, oh, you didn't know you're supposed to plug it in? I'm being silly, but my point is, if you have a sawzall with no blade and no plug, you can still beat a piece of wood and break it, you know, like a club. But if you plug it in with the blade, now the thing's working. Israel has never had, you look at Revelation, these are those that keep the commandments of the covenant and the testimony of Yeshua. Typically, the Jews try to keep so much the commandments of the covenant, but the Christians say they were done away with, and the Christians keep the testimony of Yeshua, but the Jews say that's not the Savior because he would never have changed all the commandments of the covenant. So nobody really has kept both the way the book of Revelation talks about. It's like having the blade and being plugged in. So Israel has never seen the way this sports car is supposed to work. Ever since Yahweh first gave it to B'nai Israel, my son Israel, back when he first handed it to him. So I think where we stand now is to say, we're keeping the testimony of Yeshua, the commandments of the covenant. Let's see how this thing goes. Mm-hmm. And if you look close, the word Abraham, Abra means pinions, like to lift up on eagle's wings. Yitzhak is not just laughter, but bright, glistening, shining, just yeah, you know, in laughter. And Yaakov literally means to leap over heights, like Superman, jumping over obstacles. You know, X, Y, Z axis, third dimension, a buzzard that goes way up high. It's like it all has to do with like flying. It all has to do with leaping over the adversaries and the enemies. And if you look close at what Yahweh said to Hashatan back in the garden, in English it says, he will crush your head and you will bruise his heel. We take that for granted because we don't read Hebrew. But then if you start looking at what it says, the word for bruise his heel doesn't say that. It's the word that could be translated as our, and to make a long story short, it kind of looks like Yahweh said, our secret language will leap over and raise up over anything you got, because you're going to be, you know, scraping the bottom with your stomach on the ground, and the word is akov, which is way up high, and it's just like Yahweh was declaring to the serpent right there, to the Nachash, that it's like, I'm going to give my people the secret weapon where they will be able to leap up higher than anything you can do if they invoke my words, the secret language. And it's like, we've never been told this. I've never been told this until just the other day when I was looking at these words in Hebrew, because I never have read Hebrew. I was illiterate. I can't hardly claim to be illiterate now, but up until about a year ago I was illiterate. But it's like all this stuff it's like this covenant has been sitting there. And I found verses where in Hebrew you read it, and Yahweh says, does anybody want this? Will anybody come and read this? There's one verse that says, where is he that will count the towers? It's like, count the towers. What's he talking about? The word count is sefer. There's another one that says, they have forsaken me days without number. But the word without number is also without storytelling. Because the word for number is also sefer, which is storytelling. And mem sefer is a storyteller. And it's like, is anybody going to talk about this stuff? For many days, no one has ever talked about this stuff, so nobody gets it. And it's like, if we will go back, and to count the towers is to sefer the great things, the majestic things that Yahweh has given to us. He says, I gave Israel all my best stuff. Is there anybody that would take the time to look at it, regard it, consider it, put two and two together, and end up figuring out what I gave Israel? And it's like, ever since, I think David did, and I think Paul probably knew, but ever since then, it's like, nobody does. Because Constantine effectively unplugged this by saying, doesn't matter, it's been done away with, you can't, you don't have to, he never intended for you to, and if you choose to, we're going to call you the most hideous, slanderous name we can think of. Let's call them Judaizers. And then we'll accuse them of profaning and blaspheming the blood of the Messiah. It's like, okay, that's it, it's done. And so for the last 2,000 years, we've never gone back and looked at this stuff.
Meanwhile, Yeshua said, have Moses and the prophets, and if you don't hear their words, maybe you'll really understand them.
So I think we're right at the opportunity to take the key to the race car and use it and say, what is it that is the covenant given, the heights of Jacob? The word Jacob means height, so it's kind of like a play on words, the heights of the heights. What are the heights of Jacob? The laughter of the shining, blossoming